Hey everybody, thanks for joining. This is kind of the end of a cycle we did on the life of an order at Noise Bears. I started it with the doors about a year ago, and we've done everything else and kind of wrapping it up here with an enclosure. Enclosure is kind of unique. The way it travels through our operation, and that's why I thought we'd show it to you, that it's not as straightforward as just we make a few parts and put them in a crate. I thought it'd be kind of interesting. But again, let's do it. So Quiet Mod, that's our modular panel system. So this is a typical enclosure. In this case, I'm going to be talking kind of about an architectural enclosure, so a studio. So it could be a music practice room, a voiceover studio, production studio, something that has a nice finish, powder coated windows, electrical features, things like that you'll see. So we'll talk about what a properly executed and informative purchase order looks like, how the order flows through our operation, what's involved in the submittal phase, what's involved in the release for production. Some of you on here actually do releases for production, so you'll enjoy my take on it. Production stages, what happens to it after we put it into the factory, then the shipment, then the on-site installation. So purchase order, we always want to reference the quote number because the quote is usually multiple pages, lots of scope involved in it. A purchase order can be truncated somewhat, like you see in this case, where it lists 2 rooms of various sizes, the doors. It doesn't need to get into all the detail of a quote, but we do like to be itemized, within reason to make sure we're on the same page. It has to have freight issues, term issues, tax if applicable. And in this case, it talks about things that were added during the approval process, which we'll touch on in the back and forth in submittal. So in this case, they added some lights and things like that. So it had to be added to the purchase order. And that's how we keep track of it. So the purchase order kind of is the key to getting everybody on the same page. This has been part of our presentation for all of these, so I won't dwell on this too much, but it shows that there is the structure of the RFQ through the order, handing off to a project manager, then to a designer, and then we get into the back and forth on our initial submittal and revisions and what can happen to it, the course it takes, and then when it gets handed down in through the operation and out through installation. If anybody had any questions, I could get onto that or forward this to you. It's very informative, but it's our process flow. It's just, I won't dwell on it again because it's been shown on all 6 of these. Submittal documents for an enclosure are the most detailed of any of the submittals we do because we really want to handle all the information for the entire system that you're buying. So it's the complete scope. Walls, elevations, where the electrical is. You see these conduits that are in the walls here. Doors. I'll show you on the next page. The door kind of even gets more sophisticated on its own. The roof layout for silencers. Where's air coming in? Where's air going out? The lights, hardware, the wall construction, the panel type. We do manufacture about 15 different wall panel types. So this is the opportunity to make sure, again, customer and Noise Bears are on the same page with what the intended performance is, and that we've selected the wall panel that you wanted and we need for the performance. And it's at this stage when we generate this set of drawings, a typical, I snippeted 2 here. There could be as many as 10, 12 in this package. We forward it to the customer, and that's when it reaches the stage out for approval, or as we tag it, OFA. A follow-up to that submittal you just saw, we even get specialized into the door because it's a unique component. So the door will get its own page because things that could be going on it. This could be an electrified lock set. We have to show the wiring of that. This could be a light fixture, electrical options, anything that needs a little more focusing in on just elevations like you saw before. But we want to give as much detail as possible so everybody's on the same page. Once the everybody's agreed on the enclosure layout, it becomes released for production. In our shop, in our terminology, it's called TBR. That's the phase where it will be in our design team's hands. Project management and design team will work on how they want to release this into the shop. This particular slide shows 4 different shop release cover pages. That's due to the fact that when we do an enclosure, an architectural one such as this, there's components, the door we've talked about, the wall panels we've talked about, it could have windows, it could have electrical, it could have structural steel. This particular one has all of those. Those each go to a different department within the shop. So we can see here that the door gets released at the same time as the panels, at the same time as the structural steel. All these components go to different areas in the facility and ideally are all timed to match back up at the powder coating line and then shipping together. So it gets rather sophisticated behind the scenes here, how that room goes to actual different buildings to be produced, different parts, different buildings. The production process, this is, some of you may or may not have visited CAG. This is our campus. We call it 401 and 501. And to the previous slide's point, a couple of these releases will be sent into areas here. Some are going to go across the parking lot here and be fabricated over here. So when we put it into the production process, shop and engineering reviews our packages and transforms them into the sheets they need for flat layout, cutouts, things like that. And the shop gets loaded on a first come, first served basis. We do quote lead times, as you know, and then we try to keep you up to date, the customer that is, as much as possible throughout the process, because the shop can fill quickly and could impact lead time a week or two. So we try to keep you updated on that, but it is definitely a first come, first serve basis. So that's why we're regularly on our customer to check on a project that is OFA, out for approval, to try to get it into that approval stage, to get it into the queue as soon as possible. Once we do send it into production, it's called RTS. So if you hear that term when you're calling to talk about our project, it would go into RTS. And again, it's going to go to all these different parts. Sorry about that. All right. So once it's been selected, once the release has been done, every department has their packet. Everybody knows what each department has to build on what date in order to meet again together at the powder coat line. Everybody starts selecting their various raw materials from large volumes of stock. It could be ordered to the job if it's special, but we do stock an awful lot of standard weight gauges of steel, particularly for doors and our panels. And then everything gets cut, notched, perforations or penetrations, things for anything that's going to be involved in the enclosure. You saw in the submittal package, there were light fixtures in the ceiling and there were duct cutouts. All of those would be made in these flat sheets right here before the panels are even formed. And then the panels get formed with those pre-cut in them. So there's no cutting of the panel after the fact. Everything's made precisely to those submittal and layout requirements. Then everything goes down different lines. Doors go down a line, panels go down a line, silencers go down a line, all different. But depending on the capacity of the shop, again, it's all scheduled to meet. But every single component has a dedicated process to it so that it's consistently the same quality, same standards. Here's an example of the doors coming down the door line. Here's the way the material runs from start to finish. Behind us here, if we were physically standing where I took this picture, would be where the flat sheets were notched, cut, and formed. And then they get on work tables and rolling process tables. So each person is doing the same task on a different door or a different panel or a different silencer each step of the way. Now in the back of this line and the other lines all come together at the powder coat line. Everything gets ideally powder coated at the same time because you have to set up the system with the color of this. In this case, it's a studio room. The RAL color selected. So we want to hang the door and hang the panels and hang the trim and run that entire job in one shot on whatever color is picked. Typically, doors are powder primed, but since we're doing an enclosure, I gave an example of this. It's the entire system gets the powder coat. And then after the doors, panels, everything are powder coated, the panels usually don't need any more work. The only ones that do are some that have electrical or light fixtures. they'll go to a panel finish area. Here I show example of the door finish area. That's where that raw door will have all of its hinges put on, seals, hardware, and all of our doors are swing tested in the factory for fit and finish and a proper seal. And they will be then crated and join the panels in the crating department. The 501, the building, when I showed the overview, the second building does all the crating now. It's become a major operation for us. They're crating every hour of every single day. Doors get crated on their own and panels get crated together. A typical enclosure like the size we saw approval drawings for would have about 4 to 5 crates, 6 to 8 panels per crate, 1 door or 2 doors per crate. And then once it's ready to ship, the project management team is interfacing with the customer and we ask for a shipping letter to be completed. And that gets, again, a tie into the customer to make sure we're on the same page as to where you want it delivered, what kind of truck you want it delivered on, what time of day you would like it delivered. We give weights and dims for the crates that they'll be dealing with on the site. And this 1-page letter handles all of the issues that are involved with coordinating delivery from our factory to your job site. In the crates and sent electronically beforehand are all the installation instructions, standard, and the drawings for installation. You can see here the panel mark numbers correlate to a bill of materials, and it allows you to set up. We also have YouTube videos that correlate to these as to how to assemble our rooms, or you could have purchased or entertained noise barriers installing the enclosure for you upon delivery. And it's that short and that easy. That's it. Give us a call or contact any one of us if you have a question, or contact me if you want to see any more detail on any of this. But I tried to move right along, get you guys in and out of here. But that's kind of the life cycle of an enclosure and how we tackle it from our side of the operation. Appreciate it. Thank you.